My name is Rebecca. I've spent most of my life watching from the sidelines. There was always Liam. Always. My older brother, the golden child. The one who could charm a room with a smile. The one who could make people laugh, who could talk about the most trivial thing and somehow make it sound like he was changing the world. He was the family's pride, our parents' favorite, the one with the natural talent, the good looks, the connections. And then there was me. I didn't mind. Really. I wasn't like Liam. I never wanted to be the center of attention. I was content staying in the background, quiet, invisible. I didn't need to be noticed. I didn't need the applause or the admiration. I had my own work to do, work that no one knew about. Growing up, I was the good kid, the one who stayed out of trouble, did what was expected, never raised my voice. I didn't mind the quiet. It was safe. It was easy. It was familiar. But the thing about silence is that it can only last so long. Eventually, the quiet starts to feel like a cage. You start to resent it, but you don't know how to escape. And that's what happened to me. I was the one who had always been in Liam's shadow, and I had learned to stay there, to be unnoticed. No one knew the real story. No one knew about the late nights I spent coding, designing, dreaming up the future. No one knew that I had created SmithCore. No one knew because I had let Liam take it all, let him claim it as his own, even though I had built it. I let him be the hero, the genius, the founder. I was fine with that. Or at least, I told myself I was. But even the quiet has its breaking point. It all started with an idea. A spark. A flicker of something that I couldn't shake. I had been working on apps, playing with code, experimenting for years. It wasn't about money or fame. It was about solving a problem. I wanted to create something that could change the way people worked. Something that would help them be more productive, more connected. It was a dream that I nurtured in silence, in the quiet spaces where no one could see me. I spent countless hours designing the app, writing every line of code myself. I pitched the prototype to Liam, told him I had something big. I didn't want the credit, I told him. I just needed someone who could help me take it to the next level. I thought of him as my partner, my ally. He had the network, the business, acumen, the charm. I trusted him. I wanted him to succeed, and I thought maybe, just maybe, it would be enough if I could just help him get there. "Let me handle the business side," he said. "I've got it covered, Rebecca. You just focus on what you're good at. This'll be easier if it's all under my name." I didn't think twice. I believed him. After all, he was my brother. And it didn't matter to me. I didn't need recognition. I didn't need my name on anything. All I wanted was for our work to matter. But when the papers were signed, when the company was registered, I found myself erased. His name, Liam Smith, was the only one that appeared. I was nothing, but a footnote, a forgotten ghost in the background of a story I had helped create. It didn't take long for SmithCore to blow up. Liam was a natural, charismatic, confident, and able to make anyone believe in the impossible. Investors loved him. The media loved him. Our family, they practically worshipped him. The tech world was suddenly at his feet, and our parents beamed, with pride, saying, "That's our boy. The next big thing." I watched from the sidelines, just like I always had. But this time, it was different. This time, I wasn't just invisible. I was erased. It was as if I had never existed in the story at all. Liam's company grew fast. Too fast. The press called him a genius, a visionary, a tech mogul. He appeared at conferences, on talk shows, giving interviews with a smile that made it look so effortless, so natural. He talked about the app like it was his brainchild, his masterpiece, and no one questioned it. No one ever thought to ask, who wrote the code? Who designed it? Who made it work? It didn't matter. No one cared about the quiet one in the background. And why should they? I wasn't the one out there, basking in the spotlight. I wasn't the one shaking hand with investors or posing for magazine covers. For 2 years, I stayed in the shadows. I watched as Liam's success grew, and with every new accomplishment, my heart tightened just a little more. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to be the one to shatter his perfect image. So, I stayed, quiet. I stayed small. But inside, I was breaking. Slowly. Quietly. I tried to ignore it. I really did. I told myself I was fine. It didn't bother me that Liam was in the spotlight, that everyone saw him as the face of Smithcore. He was my brother, after all. I was proud of him, in my own way. I told myself that all that mattered was the work I had done, the thing I had created. But deep down, I felt it. A slow, gnawing resentment that started to build every time his name was mentioned and my contribution was forgotten. I was a ghost in my own story. I never asked for the credit. I never demanded recognition. But the more Liam flourished, the more I shrank. Every time someone congratulated him, every time they called him a visionary, I felt like my insides were being squeezed. The constant praise made my own silence feel suffocating. There were moments when I would try to speak up, small moments. At family dinners, when someone would say, "Liam, you're amazing. You're going to be the next Elon Musk." I'd smile, awkwardly, trying to swallow the bitterness in my throat. I would say something like, "Yeah, he's great. We worked really hard on it." But Liam would laugh it off, dismissing it like it was no big deal. "Rebecca, you're not really a business-minded person," he'd say with a chuckle, almost too loud, like he was trying to make a joke. "Just be proud of your contribution." And then he would move on to the next conversation, leaving me behind. Again, I wasn't even allowed to be proud. Not really, and that's when it hit me. The resentment was no longer just about recognition. It was about something deeper. Something I couldn't ignore anymore. It was about my worth, my value. I wasn't just being overlooked. I was being erased. I should have seen it coming. The engagement party. Everyone had been talking about it for weeks. Liam's big day, the celebration of his future with Natalie, his perfect fiancée. I should have known it was going to be a spectacle. After all, it was Liam we were talking about. Every milestone in his life was a grand event, a performance for the family, a moment for him to shine even brighter. But I didn't expect what happened at that party. I didn't expect the way it would tear at something inside me that I had been hiding for so long. It started off like any other family gathering. Laughter, clinking glasses, compliments flying like confetti. Natalie, Liam's fiancée, was the picture of polished elegance, the corporate lawyer who seemed to have it all together. She floated around the room, glowing, her eyes never leaving Liam. I could see how she admired him, how everyone admired him. And then she turned to me. "You're the little sister, right? Just a college grad?" she asked, her voice sweet, almost too sweet. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone. The way she said it, like I was some afterthought, an accessory to the story that didn't matter. That was when it happened. That was when everything in me broke. Quietly, under the weight of her words. And I realized I wasn't just hurt. I was done. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. It was simple, just a few sheets of paper, but it was everything I needed. Everything I had worked for, everything I had built, everything I had kept hidden. I handed it to Natalie, my hands steady, despite the rush of emotions flooding me. Inside, there were 3 things: the original design files, a private NDA Liam, had made me sign, and a document that I had filed 6 months ago, quietly, without anyone knowing, reinstating my ownership of the patent and transferring 51% of the shares back to me. Her smile faded. Her eyes widened. I could see the confusion creeping across her face. "You're the founder?" she whispered, almost as if she was afraid to say it aloud. And in that moment, the room went silent. The silence that fell over the room was almost suffocating. I could hear the faint clink of glasses in the background, but it felt distant, like a world away. My heartbeat was louder than anything else. I watched Natalie's face shift from confusion to disbelief, and I knew in that moment she understood. She understood everything I had been hiding, everything I had been silently carrying for years. The weight of the truth was finally pressing down on all of us. And then Liam appeared. He had been mingling with a group of investors in the other room, but the second he saw the folder in Natalie's hands, he knew. His smile faltered. His posture stiffened. The color drained from his face. It was as if everything he had worked so hard for, everything he had built his identity on, was suddenly crumbling around him. "What is this?" he asked, his voice tight. He walked over, eyes fixed on the papers, then back to me. There was no bravado, no humor in his voice now, just raw panic. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The truth was already laid, bare, and no number of words could change that. I watched him shuffle through the documents, his eyes widening with each page. For a long moment, all he did was stare at the legal paper, the one that reinstated my ownership, that gave me 51% of the company. His face was pale, his lips trembling, and I could see the realization slowly sinking in. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't something he could laugh off. Liam tried to laugh anyway, a weak chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. "Rebecca," he said, his voice shaky, "this is ridiculous. You can't just—" But the words caught in his throat. He couldn't finish the sentence, because there was nothing to say. The truth was undeniable. In that moment, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel bitterness. What I felt was something far more powerful. Relief. Liam was shaking now. His usual charm, the smooth-talking, confident Liam I'd grown up with, was gone. In its place was someone vulnerable, scrambling for a way to fix what was broken. His eyes darted around the room, looking for someone, anyone, to back him up, but no one did. Not even Natalie. I could hear the silence thickening again, suffocating the conversation. The guests stood frozen, uncertain of what to say or do. Liam's world, the world he had spent years constructing, was crumbling in front of him. And I was standing there watching it fall, not with vengeance, but with a quiet strength that he had never seen from me. "Rebecca," Liam's voice cracked. "This is family. You can't—" He trailed off, trying to find the right words, but nothing sounded right. It was like a man who had spent years lying, only now realizing the weight of the lies was too much to bear. "You don't understand what this will do. You can't just take everything from me." The desperation in his voice was unmistakable, but it didn't touch me. Not anymore. I stayed silent. There was nothing left to say. His words didn't matter. His excuses didn't matter. I had waited too long for him to acknowledge the truth, to see me for who I truly was. But he hadn't. He had built his empire on my work, and now, with the documents in my hands, I was taking it back. And then, in the most quiet, calm way, I watched as the real Liam surfaced. Someone stripped of the mask. Someone who couldn't hide behind his usual bravado. He was exposed, vulnerable, and that moment of clarity was enough. "You think this is fair?" he asked, his voice softer now, pleading. "Fair," I repeated, barely above a whisper. No, Liam. This is justice. Liam's face twisted in frustration. His usual charm, the one he used to manipulate people into seeing what he wanted them to see, was gone. There was no more laughing it off, no more shrugging it away. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't something I could be talked out of. I watched him stumble over his words, trying to piece together some form of control, but it was over. The papers in my hand were the last word. "You're ruining everything," he finally snapped, his eyes darting between me and the guests. His voice was rising, raw with panic. But I didn't flinch. I stood there, calm, the truth settling in, my chest like a quiet fire. "Liam," I said, my voice steady, "you've been taking everything from me for years. You've made your life off of my work, off of my ideas. And now, I'm taking it back." His anger flared, but it was weak. There was nothing left for him to fight with. He had used me, taken credit for something that wasn't his, and now the truth had come crashing down. The room felt like it was holding its breath. No one spoke. No one dared. Liam turned to Natalie, his face contorted with disbelief, like he was waiting for her to fix it, to make it all go away. But she didn't. She just stood there, her eyes locked on the papers in my hands. "I'll leave," Liam muttered, shaking his head, his face pale, like he was trying to convince himself. This is insane. And then Natalie did something I didn't expect. She stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. "Actually, Liam," she said, "this house is in Rebecca's name now." It was as if the last little thread of control he had slipped through his fingers. I looked at her, and for the first time I saw a flicker of respect in her eyes. It wasn't for Liam anymore. It was for me. The tension in the room was unbearable. Liam stood there, eyes wide, disbelief etched across his face, while everyone around him remained silent, unsure of what to do next. I could see his mind racing, trying to find a way to fix this, trying to pull together the pieces of a reality that was slipping from his grasp. But it was too late. The truth was already out there, raw and unyielding, and no amount of his charm or manipulation could change that. He turned to me, the anger now bubbling to the surface again. But it wasn't the same anger he used to throw at me. This was different. This was the rage of someone who had been caught, who knew he had nowhere left to hide. His voice wavered, thick with emotion. "You've taken everything from me," he spat. "Do you have any idea what this will do to me? To my future?" I could feel the weight of his words, but I didn't let it affect me. No, I wasn't the same person anymore. I wasn't the quiet sister hiding in the shadows, waiting for approval. I wasn't the one who had allowed myself to be erased from the story. I had made my choice, and I was taking back what was rightfully mine. "You've had everything for years," I said, my voice steady. "It's my turn now." I turned away from him, walking toward the door. There was no need for me to say more. There was nothing left to prove. I had reclaimed my company, my identity, and my power. As I stepped into the hallway, I could hear Liam's voice behind me, rising in frustration, but it was distant, muffled, as if it no longer had any hold on me. I wasn't leaving as the ashamed, overlooked little sister anymore. I was leaving as someone who had found her strength, her worth. I walked out of that room, out of Liam's house, without looking back. The door closed softly behind me, but inside it felt like a new chapter had opened. The weight of the years I'd spent invisible, the years of silence and being erased, had lifted. I wasn't just walking away from a house or a family gathering. I was walking away from the person I had once been, the quiet, humble sister who let her brother take everything. But now I was free. The streets outside were cool, the night air crisp. And as I walked away from the party, I didn't feel the rush of victory I thought I would. There was no need to gloat, no need to rub it in. I had nothing to prove anymore. The truth was out, and I had taken back what was always mine. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm, at peace. I wasn't running away from something. I was running toward everything I had been too scared to claim before. As I stepped onto the quiet sidewalk, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Natalie. I didn't know Rebecca, but I see you now. I smiled, reading the words. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. That was enough. For the first time in my life, I wasn't in anyone's shadow. I wasn't second place to anyone. I was Rebecca Smith's, the creator of SmithCore, the founder of a company that was now mine, not just in name, but in every sense of the word. And for the first time in years, I felt like I had finally come home.